because we've got to give the king everything.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this new video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I've received this parcel from a client who has sent me an original 1950s Hollywood costume for me to work on, to restore and just make look a bit fresher. I'm really excited to do this project. It's a dress worn by Mitzi Gaynor in the film Les Girls, and it's in the 18th century style. The clip is on YouTube, so I'll link that down in the description. The costume was designed by Orry Kelly, and he won one of his Oscars for this film. This clip is another on YouTube, so I will link that in the description as well. Okay, let's get on to opening the box. Okay, this is really interesting to see, because I've always wondered how these were made. You'll understand why if you watch the clip of her in it. Okay, it's in two pieces. We have the bodice. I'll lay these out properly so you can see them in a moment. And then here we have the skirt, which is made in an 18th century style. And then there's only a front, which, watch the clip and you'll understand why. This is the auction catalogue for the Star wardrobe at the Great MGM auction of 1970. And here, listed as lot 501, is the dress worn by Mitzi Gaynor. It also lists the other two dresses from this scene worn by Tanya Elg and Kay Kendall. The Kay Kendall dress is now in a collection, but the Tanya Elg dress has yet to surface. Orry Kelly, the costume designer of this costume, is an Australian. He was born in Kiama, which is about an hour outside of Sydney, and a few years ago I was lucky enough to visit the town. He eventually ended up in America and became the head designer at Warner Brothers Studios in the 1930s. He designed most of the costumes for Bette Davis's films there. Probably the most famous one is the red dress from Jezebel. which wasn't actually red, but a dark brown, as this photographed better in black and white. Some of his most other famous films are Gypsy and Some Like It Hot. Over his career, he won 3 Oscars for the films An American in Paris, Some Like It Hot, and Les Girls. In 2015, a biography was published which he wrote himself but had been lost for a long time, and this was eventually turned into a documentary film. If you get the chance to watch it, please do, because it's really interesting and entertaining, with him talking about his long career in Hollywood. I have a copy of the biography here, and in it is just a tiny little bit that he's written about Kay Kendall having her fitting for the costume for this scene, which I'll read to you. In it, he's talking about her being given a dog by Gladys Cooper, and it says, for days before the start of the film, the dog had had bowel trouble. After all, Connie had sat through weeks of costume fittings for Les Girls. In fact, she seemed to frown at me when I placed a naughty blue bow on Kay's bottom. Kay shrieked with laughter, and as she said, "Darling, don't you think you're pointed up too much? Mitzi Gaynor has such a lovely figure. Maybe my bum is too big." "It's round, you know." Kay, who had a beautifully proportioned figure, was forever tearing herself to shreds. The blue bow is what goes on the back of these costumes. I've put the dress on the mannequin so we can see the shape. The bodice has a very exaggerated 1950s bust cut, and I've actually had to put pads in there to help fill it out. And I've also put my 18th century pocket hoops under the skirt to give it the correct silhouette as it was in the film. Here you can see the skirt with and without the pocket hoop. On the left it is with, and on the right without. Even though there is structure sewn into it to give it a shape, I think at some point this has been altered and played with, and it now doesn't have the shape that it used to have. The skirt is made of 4 layers of fabric. The top layer is made of a very fine silk organza, which has all this lace applique sewn onto it. This is a beautiful corded lace, and it has all been sewn on by hand with the tiniest stitches you wouldn't believe. And then it has all this extra paint work on. When I first saw this clip in the film, I thought this was actually another lace that was sewn underneath, but then later found out that it was paint. On the hips, it has this extra panel which has been sewn on top by hand around here to give it the poofy effect. This really reminds me of the dress in the Disney animation Cinderella, where she has those hip poofs on the side of her dress. The second layer of the skirt is made again of a very fine silk organza, and it has this frill sewn around the edge, which has this really lovely and tiny lace sewn onto it, which has been zigzagged on with a very tiny stitch, and then the frill has been zigzagged onto the skirt panels, again with a really tiny stitch. The next layer under that is a sort of a grey colour, again a silk organza, which has had the seams zigzagged together, and the hem has been zigzagged very tiny as well. And then the fourth layer is, it feels like a polyester georgette, which just as the thicker layer just gives it a bit of body. Here you can see the understructure in the hips to give it the shape. As I said previously, I think at some point this has been altered and played with, because it doesn't really match what you see in the film when you get a glimpse of it. I would say this is the original, the pleated crin here, and then this crin crin layer has been added later at some point, and to finish off the raw edges it seems to have had sellotape sewn onto it, but this really isn't doing the right thing anymore, so that's why I need to work out a structure to go underneath. Here's the back of the dress. As you can see, it's very low cut at the back as an illusion, obviously the waist being here, so this was very risque in 1957. Here you can see two threaded loop bars. This is where the blue velvet ribbon was slotted in for the number, which is then taken out. On the skirt here at the back you can see where the layers, the organza layers, have been sewn onto the georgette layer underneath. The bodice fastens down the side with a zip. This is then covered with the flap, which has tiny little hooks on it and corresponding tiny thread bars. This bit of ribbon on the zip is actually visible when you watch it in the clip. You can see it sticking out at the side. It does that with press studs here under the arm, and then it fastens here with a very large trouser hook at the bottom of the shoulder strap. Here's the inside of the bodice. As you can see, there is a bra sewn into it, which gives it that, as I said, that very exaggerated 1950s bust. And there's also a bit of padding which is disintegrated in the bottom of the bra. And you can see here there's a bit of velvet ribbon has been sewn on to stop it rubbing, and also at this point here where the large trouser hook and bar fastens to stop it rubbing against the skin. The top of the bra has this lace sewn onto it, and underneath, which I don't know if you can see, there is this double layer of flesh coloured silk habiti with a layer of canvas in there. I don't really know what this is for or what it was its function, as it's not seen or anything, unless it was literally just there to soften the line of the top of the bra. The front panel also has an extra layer of canvas sewn in each panel. The bones are spiral boning here, here, and here, but at the front it feels like there is more than one bone down the front, as it's really stiff up to about here, and then it feels like there's only one bone at the top. Also, you can see this little thing here. This threads through a corresponding hole in the front of a skirt, and then this would have hooked onto a bar which would have been sewn onto the knickers to hold the bodice down and to keep the point from riding up. This is still a technique that is used on ladies' ballet costumes today to help hold everything down. At the back, you can see all these hooks, which would have attached to the tights underneath. And it also has this layer of what I suppose you'd call equivalent would be like a power mesh. It's a one-way stretch, which then the flesh-coloured chiffon has been placed over the top. And also here is a label. This is the designer's own label, Orry Kelly Couture Creation. And then this label here is the India tape label that's been sewn in at MGM, which has the production number on it. So I don't know whether these were made outside of the studio because it has Orry Kelly's own label in at his own workrooms, or whether they were made at MGM and he just had his own label sewn into them. The collar is made up of several frills. There's an organza frill with the same edging, the same as that was on the underskirt. Then there is a lace, Chantilly lace frill, and then another lace frill of the same corded lace that's used on the skirt. And in this you can see it has the bended wires to help the collar stand up. I hope you've enjoyed looking at this Oscar-winning Hollywood costume with me. The plan of action for this dress is to give her a clean and a steam to freshen her up, and then give her a general look over and repair where she needs it, and to make the understructures to go under the skirt to give it the right silhouette. I will be covering all of this in another video, which I hope you'll join me for. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon.